carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April.
to resilient.
Before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggle with acid strike.
We are not giving me the report.
And work so global Fwegbe. The lighter another day business of the weekend is interesting. Hate my month. Well, there's pretty much nothing you can do about it now. The thing is that you're making the most of your time. You are not just paying your investments in a while. Now, part of big stories, then have conversations. Then I'm solo for the most part of this morning's show. So, in because of the show today, I got 12 mine. Big conversations is what has to do with social investment programs of the government. We hear 4 of them, 4 major ones have been suspended by President Bola Tinubu. This was the senior advisor to the President Galali, saying that the president is doing this to allow for, amongst other things, the holistic propagation and probe issue investment programs. I mean, you and I know how that is show seen allegations into the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, the former president, and of course we understand what's now going on with regards to Saidia Umar Farouk, the immediate past minister of humanitarian affairs and disaster management. And it didn't stop with her. I mean, she had done virtually 4 years there between August of 2019 and May of 2023. But fast forward to her successor, talking about Betta Edu now, who has also been alleged to have misappropriated funds, one of which, or part of which, is idea of paying public funds into private accounts, an allegation she has denied again and again. However, those 2 issues are now in front of the Anti-Graft Agency, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. We understand that they've both been told that they should report every other day, pending when circumstances to get FCC. In the meantime, however, their passports have been confiscated, from what we hear, both official and, of course, some people say they are special passports. I don't know what that means. But the point is, those issues have been investigated. But they have also raised concerns around how we approach interventions with regards to social investment. We understand that, for example, social investment initiatives should be able to, for the most part, address issues around poverty. Nigeria is a country that has millions of people living below the poverty line. Most of them can't have even 2 square meals a day. People can't start a small business of, basically 50,000, 100,000, for example. So social investment should be ideally strategic enough to address these issues, should be able to reach out to the so-called poorest of the poor. But again, questions are being asked now as to how the federal government has been determining those who are the poorest of the poor. We understand one of the criteria used is that most of those persons either don't have a bank account at all because they are part of the unbanked public, or worse still, they've never had, maybe in the last 5 years or something, up to 5,000 naira in their accounts at a given time. But it's concerning, all right, because you're wondering what vital data do we use to determine all of this? Well, some people say there's data with regards to number database, the national identity, data with regard to the or talking about the passport database. They say there's also data because there are people who have been issued, duly issued international passports in this databases that can be harvested, so to speak, to drive this narrative. But for the most part, it looks like we have not been really committed. We've not shown seriousness. We've not shown transparency in the process. Because recall that while we had Sadiya Umar Farouk as the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, there had been questions as to the idea of having to distribute the conditional cash transfer of 20,000 naira by hand, I mean in cash. Well, of course, at that point, largely the excuse was, well, as we already understand, most of these people don't have bank accounts, so how else would you get money across to them? All right, and then the issue of probity, accountability, making the whole process as transparent as it can get have also been very concerning. So we want to look at that this morning. We want to look at what governments might have lost on the basis of this mismanagement of public funds with regards to administration of SIPs, or what we call social investment programs. We also want to stretch our conversation to the South-South, in particular to Edo State, where we understand that INEC has scheduled gubernatorial election in that state because the election for governorship in Edo State is off cycle, just like you have with Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi, of course, Anambra, and so on and so forth. All right, so Edo State will have its governorship election in September. That will just be about 2 months to swearing in, because swearing in is on the 12th of November every other year in Edo State. However, there has been this across political parties. Recall that in 2016 and 2020 in particular, it was more like, if you like, a two-horse race, because it was just the All Progressives Congress, the APC, where you had Pastor Ezeyamo in 2020, and then, of course, it was the incumbent governor, Godwin Obaseki of the PDP. Of course, we understand how he moved to the PDP at the 11th hour in the manner of speaking. But then in 2016, it was also both of them again. Pastor Ezeyamo, however, in this particular instance, was of the PDP, and then Governor Obaseki, who was the candidate at that time, was on the platform of the APC, all right, with the backing of the incumbent governor, as he then was talking about Adams Oshiomhole at the time. So those were the circumstances, basically, in 2016 and 2020. And now this is virtually 4 years down the line. We've seen other parties coming strong on stream, particularly the Labour Party. So how does that change the narrative with regards to how electioneering is done in Edo State? Let's not also forget that within the PDP itself, there is also some sort of rancor, there's some sort of tussle back and forth, all right? Because while the governor, we understand, is, if you like, has tapped Asuen Ighodalo, one of Nigeria's most prominent lawyers, all right? And of course, a boardroom boy, as some people call him, all right, as is anointed, like politicians will say, candidates for these Osadebe slots, because the governor believes that there should be some people in the state, those who follow elections in Edo State from even outside the state, is that you had a governor from Edo South in the person of Lucky Benedium for 8 years. Obaseki is almost serving out 8 years, another person from Edo South. In between both of them, you had Comrade Adams Aliyu Oshiomhole, all right, from Edo North, who had done 8 years. However, Edo Central, where, well, you would have said we had Senator, who also is a professor, Osareme Osumbo, at the government house at the time, he didn't do up to 2 years. It was there for just a little over a year, because he came in May 2007, but then he had to leave by November of 2008, paving the way for Oshiomhole having been declared winner of that election by the courts. All right. Now, that said, the argument by some people, maybe a good number of them, is that to ensure there's equity, the governorship has got to go, or should be zoned to the central, that is Edo Central, all right, where you have largely the ASAM people. So the governor, from the path he has been toeing, starting from his campaign in 2020, all right, wants to ensure that that zone, that senatorial district, produces the next governor. However, he has chosen his man, all right, talking about Asuen Ighodalo, whom those who are now rooting for him refer to as AI. However, there's also, by all means, we want this governor to come from our. However, the bad is you can't, Mr. Obaseki. We've got to be our daughter who would represent us, all right, at Osadebe Avenue come the 12th of November. In the conversation regarding the election in Edo State. We understand taste and texture is ready for us, so we can give you some breakfast or maybe a lunch idea this morning. When we return, I'll talk to you about your Obaseki Shoaibu elements in this narrative. To stay with us, everyone.
Hello and welcome to another episode on Taste and Texture. I'm Fatimi Abomar. Today we're taking you on another nutritious food in Nigeria, agidi. Agidi, also known as eko, is a traditional Nigerian dish made from maize or cornstarch. This smooth gelatinous pudding is a versatile accompaniment to various Nigerian dishes. Easy to prepare, it offers a delightful taste of Nigerian cuisine. Agidi makes a great breakfast meal. When combined with akara or moi moi, it makes a great combo with Nigeria assorted meat, pepper soup. This is popularly served in Nigeria restaurants, but you can replicate that at home. And can you believe this? Agidi also goes well with Nigerian soups for swallows, especially the draw soups like the seafood or okra soup. And now, to the ingredients needed for preparing agidi. 2 cups of maize or cornstarch, 4 cups of water, and salt adjust to taste. Now the steps. Add the maize or cornstarch in a mixing bowl. Add water gradually while stirring to form a smooth paste. Make sure there are no lumps. Bring the remaining water to a boil in a bowl. Pour the maize paste slowly, constantly. Reduce the heat to low and continue stirring. The mixture will thicken as it cooks. Keep stirring for 15 to 20 minutes until the agidi becomes thick and translucent. Remove the pot from the heat and let the agidi cool slightly. Pour the agidi into a greased container or mold. You can use a banana leaf to wrap the agidi to give it the traditional shape. Allow it to cool completely and set for a few hours or overnight in the refrigerator. Cut the agidi into slices or cubes once it has set. Serve the agidi with akara, moi moi, or favorite Nigerian soup or sauce. Enjoy your homemade agidi. And now to the health benefits. Good for eye health. Remember, the 2 antioxidants I mentioned were present in corn, lutein, and zeaxanthin. These 2 antioxidants may prevent contacts and age-related macular degeneration, AMD, which are 2 common ocular problems in Nigeria. The reason could probably be because both lutein and zeaxanthin consist of a large part of the macular region of your eyes. In fact, one medical study found out that people who consume high amount of food with lutein and zeaxanthin has had a significantly lower chance of getting age-related macular degeneration, AMD, and other eye diseases. Then, good for weight loss. Despite comprising of mainly carbohydrates, agidi is a great Nigerian weight loss food. It has a moderate amount of fiber, which makes it a great food to add to your weight loss diet. If you want to incorporate agidi to your weight loss diet, you can eat it with highly proteinous snacks like moi moi, akara, or okpa. However, it's not advisable for diabetic patients to eat agidi. Then it improves digestive health. Foods that are high in fiber are known to be good for digestive system. Agidi is full of fiber, and hence it can improve the digestive system and also easy to digest. Healthy food for toddlers. Agidi is an incredible food you can use when introducing your toddlers to solid food. It contains a lot of vitamins and nutrients and also has a high amount of carbs, which supplies energy. Other reasons why agidi is great for toddlers is because it is very affordable, easy to digest, and readily available. Healthy food for pregnant women. Agidi is a good source of vitamins and minerals, one of which is very useful to pregnant women Folic acid is a must in your diet if you're pregnant. This is because it ensures the efficient use of protein and prevents the risk of birth defects. And that's all for now. Bye. See you next time.
Well, that's Agidi right there, and I understand that it goes with a couple of items. It could be beans, it could be moi moi, what some people call bean pudding. I mean, bean pudding doesn't give that kick, right? So it's moi moi for us. It can go with a couple of other things, but it's basically a breakfast idea. It could also be extended to dinner for some other people, depending on your schedule or what works for you. All right, thank you so much for that brilliant piece there. Okay, so let's cycle back to where we're coming from, the election in Edo State. So we want to backtrack a little to 2020 when it was time for campaign. And of course, by that time, the strain in the relationship between the former governor, Adams Oshiomhole, and his successor and benefactor, Governor Obaseki, had become more severe, maybe intense, right? So it was a matter of would the All Progressives Congress, the APC, give the tickets, their tickets to Obaseki for a second term shot at Osadebe Avenue, that is the government house in Edo State. All right, but of course we know the rest now because in the end, he had to join the PDP, and of course, he did make clear to the PDP that, look, I read your constitution overnight, and it says to me that on account of moving into this party, your party, and being the governor, incumbent governor, that is, I'm now the leader of the party. The video is all over YouTube, all right, for those who care to watch it. However, the challenge now was Obaseki would need to make new friends, you know, have a handshake across board with other people in the PDP, some sort of very pivotal blocks in the PDP, because not every PDP member, particularly those at the leadership level, Obaseki coming at 11th hour to join them, because recall that at that time we had a few other persons who were interested in that same seat, including former member of the House of Representatives who represented Oedo Federal Constituency at the House of Representatives, talking about Engineer Omoyegi Ogbedihama. He was interested, all right? He was a strong aspirant who had the likes of a man popularly called Rice Man, Kenneth Imasagbo, himself a lawyer, and an old member, some people say founding member of the PDP, even though he had to do his own cross-carpeting a couple of times, like he had also done to the Labour Party in recent times. All right, so you had these strong hands. You even had people like Gideon Ikine, Engineer Gideon Ikine, all right, somebody who is a PDP devotee, all right, also vying for that office. However, it was a matter of time before this gentleman would collapse, as politicians say, their structures all in favor of Obaseki, who, and the final analysis, became the governor and headed straight back to Osadebe Avenue for the second term. But that's not where we're heading with all of this. Recall that while that campaign lasted, all right, in 2020, Obaseki and Comrade Philip Shaibu, his deputy, had become more like sweethearts. Okay, so you would see them go on campaigns, you would see them dance on stage to the popular Pepe Dem song, all right? Because at that point, it was Obaseki and Shaibu on the one hand and Oshiomhole on the other hand. Even though Oshiomhole, Shaibu, I mean, political godfather, that is. However, things have changed now because, as they say in politics, there is no permanent friend, there is no permanent enemy, only interest. That's what drives the narrative. But that same interest, ironically, is what has now, or is now dividing the governor and his favorites, talking about Philip Shaibu. As of today, we understand that Philip Shaibu has already bought form to run for governorship. I mean, that is within the PDP. All right. We also understand that the governor does not throw his weight behind him, which means that Honorable Philip Shaibu does not have the blessing of the governor, because the governor has said again and again that while he doesn't have anything against Shaibu, the man had also not been very honest, all right, and ethical about his approach to becoming governor of the state to succeed him, because he says, look, he had raised the issue before him long before now, and he told him, look, we should focus more on delivering the goods to the people of the state, because that's the reason we're in office. let's shelve who becomes governor for now so we can keep the main thing. But again, we were not there when that conversation was had. Philip Shaibu has had to say his own part time and again. We have even seen him apologize to the governor. We've seen him call the governor his big brother, and so on and so forth. But with politicians, a lot of things are possible. You have more possibilities with them than you can readily imagine in your head. But what we're saying is how all of these events shape the forthcoming gubernatorial election in the states, what it means for development, what it means for the PDP, for the APC, and for Labour Party. Already very clear that a candidate. So how intense, how competitive will it be when all the candidates head out to the polls? We'll be looking at all of that this morning on the show. We'll be joined by somebody who is a pundit on this issue, live via Zoom from Benin City, the capital of Edo State. In the meantime, let's take a look at business roundup for you.
Hello and welcome to Business Report on Global Morning. Mobile user globally spent $171 billion across the App Store, Google Play, and third-party Android app store in China in 2023. This was revealed in the latest State of the Mobile 2024 report released by app intelligence provider Data AI. The 2023 spending represents a 3% increase when compared with 2022. However, app download only increased by 1% last year at 257 billion naira. According to the report, consumer spending on a non-game app grew 11% year over year in 2023 to reach $64 billion. Social app and the creator economy drove this growth, with TikTok helping the lead way. Oil prices saw an uptick on Thursday following decision of an oil tanker by the armed group in Oman, heightening concern about the potential escalation of the conflict in the Middle East. Brent crude future this morning saw an increase of $1.03, 3%, reaching 77.83 barrels per day, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude future climbed by $0.98, that is 1.4%, reaching $72.35. However, the surge in price was tempered by the unexpected rise in U.S. crude stockpile. Alphabet Worker Union, a group representing the interests of workers at Google's parent company, has kicked against the latest move by the Google to lay off hundreds of staff working on its digital assistant, hardware, and engineering team. This is coming exactly 1 year after the Google announced it was cutting 12,000 jobs across its operation globally, representing 6% of its workforce. The affected workers in the latest exercise include those working on the voice-based Google Assistant and the augmented reality hardware team. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
For staying with us. We do appreciate it, and thank you to Kikalama Okeri for that reporting there on business. We always follow business for you to bring you a roundup of big stories from that segment of news. Now, we saw 8 different judgments delivered by the Supreme Court of Nigeria with regards to governorship elections across several states in this country, but 2 were very pivotal, maybe 3. All right, those of Plateau, Zamfara. The biggest, some people would argue, was Kano State. For those who believe Kano is the Lagos of the North, in the manner I was speaking, it was important how that judgment was going to turn out, in whose favor the pendulum would swing. As it stands today, the rest is history, because we understand that Abba Yusuf of the New Nigeria People's Party, that is the NNPP, has now been declared the winner of that election by the Supreme Court. So question is, what happened with the tribunal and the higher courts talking about the Court of Appeal? How is it that the Supreme Court, all right, the highest court, the apex court in the land, had to reverse the judgments of these two other courts? Some people say it has now created what they call crisis of confidence in the appeal courts. However, the implication perhaps is that we are still at a place as a nation. Several of our elections and their outcomes are determined by the courts. At what point are we going to have an INEC that is vibrant, robust, effective enough, transparent enough, credible enough, all right, to be able to conduct elections that Nigerians can judge, for the most part, free, fair, and credible, in such a way that at the point where INEC declares a candidate the winner of an election, there's closure to it. Of course, we can always talk about how that people have the right to go to court to seek redress if they feel they've been shortchanged, if they have reasons to believe that they've not been treated fairly. However, we have seen, very frankly, and in ways that are very practical, how that most of these cases that end up in courts emanating from elections, all right, happen on account of the fact that they can't trust the process. They don't trust the process. Of course, we know people can be mischievous and decide to say, well, if I don't win it, it means it's not transparent. Therefore, if it's not declared in my favor, we're going to end up in court and drag ourselves all through the rigors, all right, of litigation. But then, where people genuinely, honestly feel dissatisfied with the process and the way it had been conducted, it's only fair and natural, as expected, that they will go to court and seek redress. And the final analysis: what lessons are politicians learning from all of these developments? What lessons are Nigerians, the electorate, learning? What lessons is INEC as the umpire learning? Because INEC is pivotal in this conversation, no doubt about that. But those had judgments in favor have also been speaking out about how this has panned out for them and for the country. For example, the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, has talked about how that Tinubu had the powers. I mean, in his words, Tinubu had the powers as the president, the leader of the All Progressives Congress, which is the ruling party, all right, to have, well, who knows, influenced the outcome of the judgment of the Supreme Court. But he never did that. He stayed back and allowed the, law or justice to run its course. People had also said something similar about former President Muhammadu Buhari. But the important thing here is we must all learn that when we say the rule of law, it's not just about what we think, it's not just about what is in our favor at the moment or in the short term. It is about the fact that everybody, right from the president to the least person, must be subject to the rule of law, even when it is most inconvenient for them, because it is also the same law that produced the president. It's also the same law that has produced all the governors. It is the same law that has established political parties. As a matter of fact, the political parties derive their powers largely from the grundum, which is the Constitution. Therefore, it will be irresponsible, all right, it will be wicked, it will be evil, it will be mean and exploitative to now exploit the law for selfish gains. While many people are celebrating the outcome of these judgments, particularly that of Kano, Nigerians must realize that elections have not ended in this country. We're still going to have general elections in 2027, and there's another cycle in 2031, God keeping everyone alive. We're taking a break now. When we return, that's everyone.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global TV. We're live in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. Now the news in full. President Bola Tinubu has called for strengthened cooperation with France in addressing the prevailing threat of terrorism in the country. He also commended the outgoing French ambassador to Nigeria, Emmanuel Blattman, for his dedication to enhancing relations between France and Nigeria. In a farewell meeting with Blattman in Abuja, Tinubu urged her to leverage her new role as Director for Africa to advocate the need to upgrade technical cooperation between Nigeria and France to defeat terrorism and violent extremism. Tima has started Abuja to represent Nigeria at the 2024 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum scheduled to hold in Davos, Switzerland. Stanley Uwocha, the vice president's spokesman who announced this in a statement on Sunday, said Nigeria's number 2 man would join other political and business leaders across the world at the annual forum to discuss global socio-economic and development issues. Top on Vice President Shetima's agenda, apart from the plenary session, is the launch of the Private Sector Action Plan for African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCTA, at a special session to be co-chaired by him. He's also billed to hold high-level discussions with the Managing Director of IFC, Mokhtar Diop, and the Prime Minister of Vietnam, pharmacist Min Chen, among others. Also on the sidelines of the annual meeting, Senator Shetima will chair a roundtable dialogue on Nigeria's economic path. He will also attend a special session dedicated to building trust in the Global Emergency Transition Program. The Vice President is expected to return to Nigeria after participating in a week-long event. Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, has said there was no excuse for the military not to deliver on its mandate of eliminating threats to Nigeria. Abubakar said this on a Sunday in Abuja in his tribute to the Armed Forces of Nigeria in commemoration of the 2024 Armed Forces Remembrance Day, adding that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led federal government has provided the wherewithal of their session, while urging the Air Force to continue to sustain the momentum of the confidence they require to go about their businesses. He emphasized that the best way to pay tribute to the nation's fallen heroes was a sustained joint offensive against non-state actors, further adding that there was the need for sustained joint air, ground and maritime strikes against terrorism, insurgents and economic saboteurs in paying tribute to those who paid the supreme price in the defense of Nigeria. Benue State Government has commenced the distribution of fire extinguishers and enforcement of its usage in homes and public places across the state. Governor Hyacinth Alia, while launching the project on Sunday, Makurdi said the Nigerian Fire Extinguisher Sticker project was meant to control fire and ensure prompt response to any fire incident. Alia explained that the project was provision for the serving of fire extinguishers as part of effort to not only ensure safety but also generate employment. Represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Professor Joseph Alakili, Alia said over 10,000 sustainable employment opportunities will be provided under his project. Senator Rabiu Musa Kwakwaso, the presidential candidate of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, in the 2023 presidential election, has said he did not reach an agreement with President Bola Tinubu or anyone else in relation to the outcome of the Supreme Court verdict on the Kano State governorship election tussle. Kwakwaso stated this while responding to the allegation that he had reached an agreement with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu before the judgment. On Friday, the Supreme Court affirmed the NNPP as a duly elected governor of Kano State after a series of litigations. The Emir of Zozo, Malam Ahmed Nuhu Bamali, has turbaned Alhaji Muazu Bamali, a deputy director of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to Marjani Gerin Zozo. The turbaning followed the demise of late Magangin Giri and former Nigerian ambassador to Morocco, Alhaji Mansur Nuhu Bamali, who died in Lagos while on transit to Morocco in October 2023. Until his turbaning, the new Magani Giri held the traditional title of Baradin Zozo. Both the late and current Magangin Giri are biological brothers of the emir. Also to ban was the new Gardo da Masung Zozo Alhaji Aminu Musa Hassan, a staff of the Federal College of Education, Zaria. Speaking shortly after the Tabaning, the Emir congratulated the newly Taban traditionalists and tasked them to uphold the good image of the Emirate and respect the norms, culture and traditions of the people of Zozo. He cautioned them against overstepping their boundaries while discharging their assigned responsibilities, urging them to work in accordance with the rules. Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project has urged the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas to promptly reduce the National Assembly budget of 344.85 billion naira to reflect the current economic realities in the country. SIRAP urged them to request President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to present a fresh supplementary appropriation bill which reflect the reduced National Assembly budget for the SIRAP has urged them to promptly publish details of the National Assembly budget of 344.85 billion naira, including the proposed spending details of the 3 billion naira for the Senate car park and 3 billion naira budgeted for the House of Representatives car park. Over now to construction, the federal government has backtracked on its decision to construct all federal roads using only rigid concrete pavement. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, disclosed the policy reversal during a meeting with all contractors at the ministry's headquarters. The latest development comes several months after the minister directed all contractors handling federal government highway across the country to immediately dump the use of asphalt and adopt concrete technology. The announcement, which was met with stiff resistance from contractors, stalled the completion of several road projects. But Umahi, meeting all contractors in Abuja, the third of its kind since the minister assumed office in August 2023, said the government didn't ban the use of asphalt, but was trying to cut down on its geometric pricing. The National Judicial Council, NJC, has clarified that no date has yet been fixed for the swearing-in of the newly appointed 11 justices of the Supreme Court. The council said that the purported news by an Abuja-based media organization suggesting Monday, January 16th, for the inauguration of the justices did not emanate from it. A statement by the NJC's Director of Information, Barrister Soji Oye, clarified that neither the Chief of Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayo, NJC chairman nor the council itself authorized or endorsed the purported date. Operatives of the NDLEA recovered 300,000 tramadol pills at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, on Friday. NDLEA spokesman Mr. Femi Babafemi stated on Sunday in Abuja that the pills were smuggled in from Pakistan. He added that various quantities of tramadol and Indian hemp concealed in soles of sports canvas shoes and headed to Oman were also intercepted at two courier firms in Lagos on January 9th. He stated that another consignment of tramadol and hidden in a spices and headed to United Kingdom and has also been intercepted. Bafemi stated that NDLEA nabbed a 24-year-old man in Katsina State on January 10th with 25.5 kg of hemp. He explained that the arrest was effected during a buy and bus operation of Kurmi Primary School in Molufashi, Katsina. Technological agents in Nnamdi Azikiwe University have signed a memorandum of understanding to build a weather station at the university. This was according to a statement by NIMNET's General Manager Public Relations Mataru Ibrahim. The MOU was signed by the Vice Chancellor of the school, Charles Esemone, on behalf of the institution's governing council, while the DG of NIMNET, Charles Anosike, signed on behalf of NIMNET at their office headquarters in Abuja. Speaking at the signing ceremony, Anosike urged the management of the university to take leadership in downscaling NIMNET's annually issued seasonal climate prediction to farmers and other users in Anambra State and beyond. Now over to Lagos. Lawyers, a human rights activist and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has called on Nigerian police to conduct proper investigations into the case of brutality against lawyers in Lagos State. Falana made the call during a peaceful protest organized by members of the Nigerian Bar Association Lagos against the unlawful arrest and detention of a lawyer, Olumide Sunepe, by the police in the state. The lawyers, who are members of other 5 branches of the NBA, marched from its Ikeja secretariat while displaying banners to the command headquarters, where the State Commissioner of Police Adegoke Fayoade addressed them. You're watching AM News live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. When AM President-elect vows to defend island from China threat. The news continues shortly with details, and these are more stories right after this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcasts of AM News. Thank you for staying with us. And over now to our foreign desk, Taiwan's President-elect Lin Jing vowed Saturday to defend the self-ruled island from intimidation by China after voters defied warnings from Beijing and swept him to election victory. Lair, branded by Beijing as a threat to peace in the Flashpoint region, secured an unprecedented third consecutive term for the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, in Saturday's poll against a ruckus campaign in which he pitched himself as a defender of Taiwan's democratic way of life. Communist China.
这场全球关注的大选，台湾告诉全世界，在民主与威权之间。 我们选择站在民主的这一边。这场选战对全世界的意义。
Communist China claims democratic Taiwan, separated from the mainland by 180 kilometers, 110 miles straight, out of its own, and refuses to rule out using force to bring about unification, even if conflict does not appear imminent. Beijing, which before the poll called a lair of several danger and urged voters to shun him, said Saturday the result would not stop the inevitable trend of China's reunification. The UK will provide €2.5 billion of military aid to Ukraine over the coming year. Rishi Sunak has said Britain's largest annual commitment since Russia's invasion. The Prime Minister made the announcement during a rare visit to the country, where he will also sign a new agreement supporting its long-term security. Officials said the package will provide Ukraine with long-range missiles, air defense and artillery shells. Some €200 million will be spent on drones, most of which will be UK-made. The United States Marine Corps has assured Nigeria strengthening the bilateral cooperation between two countries. The commander of the U.S. African Command, Michael Lungray, and Command's senior enlisted leader to Nigeria, Michael Woods, during their recent visit to Nigeria, said the bilateral cooperation will counter violent extremism and support the latter in its fight against insecurity. In a statement, Langley said the mutual understanding and training between the United were essential in addressing the evolving security landscape in West Africa and advancing common interest. In business, Dangote Petroleum Refinery has commenced production of diesel and aviation fuel. However, the refinery has yet to produce petroleum motor spirit, otherwise known as petrol. The Chief Branding and Communications Officer of Dangote Group, Anthony Ginjina, had late on Friday confirmed the commencement of operations to our correspondents. Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment in Nigeria, Doris Uzoka Anete, has underscored the federal government's commitment to bolstering the private sector as a key driver for job creation and economic development. The minister stated this at a strategic meeting with Ogun State Governor Prince Dakpo Abiodun as part of her tour to industries, where she emphasized the federal government's support for the state, highlighting the importance of gathering feedback to enhance nationwide industrialization. In his reaction, Governor Abiodun expressed his vision of leveraging the state's proximity of Lagos to foster a conducive environment for public-private partnerships. And now on sports, Super Eagles of Nigeria were wasteful in their opening match against Equatorial Guinea as they held a 1-1 draw. Equatorial Guinea's Ivan Salvador opened the score in the 36 minutes, but Victor Sihem lathered up for the Nigerian side 2 minutes later. The results placed the Super Eagles in the group's third position after one round of matches by all four teams. Nigeria, 46 places higher than Equatorial Guinea in the world ranking, had been campaign for Africa should have taken the 10 minutes into a match that attracted a small crowd to the 6,000-seat Epibom Olympic Stadium. The Court of Arbitration for Sports has set January 19, 2024 as date for hearing on the appeal filed by the World Athletics via the Athletics Integrity Unit and the World Anti-Doping Agency, challenging the first instance decision of the Disciplinary Tribunal in the World Athletics versus Nigeria and world record holder in the 100-meter hurdle Toby Amason. While the AIU filed its appeal on September 15, 2023, World Anti-Doping Agency followed suit 2 days later, and both are seeking to get the Nigerian ban from whereabout failures in 2023. The AIU had provisionally suspended Amason in July 2023 and issued her a notice to change for an anti-doping rule violation. In a statement then on Twitter, now X, the Athletics Integrity Unit said the charge will be heard by the Disciplinary Tribunal and determined before the World Athletics Championship in Budapest, Hungary. Pep Guardiola disclosed that Manchester City's injured striker Erling Haaland is expected to remain sidelined until the end of January. Erling have been absent from the team from the past 8 games due to a foot injury suffered in early December, posing a significant challenge to the City's quest for retaining the Premier League title, initially hopeful for an early return in the new year. That Haaland's recovery is more complicated than anticipated. The 23 training raising concerns for City. And that's it on AM News, and it came to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. Remember, we're on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. See you again. Good morning.
Thank you for staying with us, everyone. And finally, Jomai Manson is on the show this morning. Great Monday. Jomai, good to see you. I'm sure you had a great weekend.
I did. Good morning, Uya, and good morning to everyone around the world. How you all doing today? It's a beautiful money-making Monday.
I like the money part, actually. Yeah,
Everyone does.
I mean, we all love that part. Incidentally, we understand Abuja is a beehive of activity right now.
Oh, yes. Roads are blocked.
The Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which we have all been in our own little ways commemorating and identifying with weeks before today. We may not be wearing our emblems this morning. Doesn't mean we are not in solidarity with the Armed Forces, the men and women who just to keep our nation safe across board. You have been doing your own reflection, I'm sure, as a Nigerian.
Of course, as a Nigerian, and of course, as a wife of a military personnel also. You know, these individuals actually pay the ultimate price.
Right.
It's not easy to go into battlefields and we're civilians asleep and they're in the war front. It hasn't been easy, but, you know, well, they did their own bit, and, well, we have to celebrate them, to thank them and their families for what they have done for us as an individual and, of course, as a country.
Very, very true. And we also understand that basically the armed forces I mean, their welfare has also been a concern for the most part, because what they do essentially is put their lives on the line. Like I said, they pay the ultimate price every other day. I mean, Nigeria has been fighting insurgency basically since 2010. And you can't talk about that, you can't tell that story without the angle of the armed forces in terms of the investments that they have to make, the critical thinking, the leadership they have to provide, the men in uniform who are on the ground 24/7, you know, and then they have families too, because they are first human beings before they are members of the armed forces. And from time to time we keep hearing about how that they had not been paid certain allowances, they had not been taken care of in some areas. You have those who have gone for foreign missions, whether it's in Liberia, whether it's in Guinea-Bissau. I mean, I was torn the other time when our president Bola Tinubu was in Guinea-Bissau. To think that the person who leads the guard of the president is even a Nigerian soldier was critical. Africa, in particular West Africa, sub region. I'm thinking, being a Nigerian, and I'm proud to be one, that the government has got to do more for our military people.
Not just the military. Now, looking at the families, these individuals that have sacrificed their lives have left behind. They have families, they have their women. You'd be shocked to see a woman that was pregnant at the point that her husband was in the Northeast that died, and then now she has given birth, and the baby did not even know who the father was. So it's not just celebrating these men, 15th of January, also to the family who actually sacrificed that time. You know, that time where the head of the home, the husband, is not available to the wife and the children, to celebrate the women for their strength, keeping the home front going, and all of that. So it's good. January 15th, we celebrate military officers and soldiers who have laid down their lives for this country, but at the same time, their families should be celebrated that, hey, he might not be around, but he's celebrated, he's remembered, we love you. And these allowances you're talking about are very important. They go a long way. You'll be surprised to hear some widows who will tell you they've not been paid these certain allowances, but I think the military now, they understand the efficacy of bringing these people together, because it is a void that can never be filled. It's such a terrible thing, but at the same time, we thank God 15th of January has been marked as Armed Forces Remembrance Day, to remember our fallen heroes, to remind people that these people actually paid the ultimate price. It's very important.
Well, we can't have this conversation, you know, as a country, just also for their families, whether they are still alive. I mean, for the men and women in uniform, whether they're alive or not, all right, because their families give them that support. That's why they were able to join, to get enlisted, all right, in the first instance. Well, this is that part where we'll take a look at the papers for you on the show. We're beginning with the New Telegraph. This morning, all right, New Telegraph is loaded. It's a Monday. What do I expect? Several other papers also have several stories for you this morning. But let's turn to the New Telegraph for you and see what we've got right on the front page of it. Okay, above the nameplates, what do you have? It says foreign reserves depletion cuts LC payments to $1.14 billion. That's according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, while we're still looking at above the nameplates, reports Nigeria to lose more multinationals as operating costs worsen. Aviation, how interagency rivalry costs Nigeria ICAO audit. That's very critical. Juma has a few others.
Of course,
headlines.
and below the nameplate, we have 2024 budget. NAS approves 4.3 billion naira as personnel calls for moribund Ajaokuta Steel Koi. And still on below the, of course, we talked about the armed forces. Remember, and it says we will continue to defend democracy, says the Chief of Defense Staff. A beautiful. Well, that's a beautiful strength, to giving us the strength, of course. Basically, we have JAM approves 747 CBT centers, which is good. 747. That means opportunity for the more the merrier when it comes to that. And basically, that is it.
Okay, let's see the national economy as the first time we're featuring this paper on the show. National economy says Nigeria's cosmetic imports reach $1.1 billion in 2023. That's if you look above the name mast there. Imperative for sanity in Nigeria's tax system. You'll find details of that story on page 12 of the national economy. And then the star story reads eNaira, how to boost Nigeria's digital currency adoption. And that's according to economists. It has a rider that says stakeholders list what CBN must do. So you can find all the details right there when you pick up a copy of the national economy this morning. So Juma has the next paper for us, which is a leadership newspaper. Let's take a look at leadership.
Leadership. And above the title plate, we have Kingmakers reject disposition of Kogi monarch. And I'm still talking about the Armed Forces Day. You know, it's a very important celebration today, the 15th of January. We won't compromise Nigerians' unity. Akpabio made that statement. And below the template, it says here, the star leading write-up, it says concerned as Pantami victims. That's the kidnapping. Siblings of part of this story was killed last week. Really sad.
During the incident.
During the incident, I read it was 600 million naira. That was the ransom fee that was supposed to be paid for the siblings. 10 million naira each for one sibling. And since they couldn't come up with the money, one of the sibling was killed. It's such an unfortunate incident. She was a 400 level student, geology in the University of Zaria. What's a very sad incident.
So ABU Zaria.
Yes, ABU Zaria. And then moving on, and it says Eagles draw with Equatorial Guinea. Everyone saw that coming, funny enough. I'm not a sports person, but you know, I watch football, and it's so sad that
we couldn't get a win.
We couldn't get a win. Like everyone was saying, Equatorial Guinea, come on, Equatorial Guinea. That the Eagles didn't put in their best. They would have won this match, not with a draw. Like seriously, it would have been 5-1 or 4-1. I'm just
well, maybe we need to have a rematch. But then we understand Lugard Okonobo, social affairs commentator, has joined us via Zoom this morning to take a look at big stories coming out of Nigerian papers this Monday. Lugard, thank you for jumping on the program today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Nice having you too. And my big sister over there. Thank you. Good morning this morning. Yeah, good morning this morning. How are you today?
I am fine. Well done. Thank you for joining us.
Happy Ham.
Well, here's what you say. You've just inspired the conversation quickly. I mean, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day is a pivotal discussion in Nigeria, not just today, but every other day, whether we commemorate or not. Are we learning our lessons in terms of how we approach issues of defense, issues of intelligence, how we approach issues of welfare of men and women in uniform, as well as their families that are associated with them?
I would say that we are learning our lessons, but you see, when you talk of learning lessons, you bring up the issue of speed, the response. It's so fortunate that insecurity situation in Nigeria has become an enterprise. And because of the divergent nature of our political parties, we have people in power without the right ideology, but rather their personal interest. And so you see someone that has been classified to have subscribed to certain insecurity activities in the country, occupying a position, but because of political interest, the person remains there, not for the good of the country rather, but just to satisfy political interest. And that is a very strong lesson for us, which affects the speed at which we respond catering for welfare of those who are protecting the territorial integrity of our country, Nigeria.
Oh, excellent. I was just going to bring up something real quick from this same question I asked a while ago, but I'm sure Juma has a question to ask in this regard.
You know, talking about welfare of these fallen heroes that are left behind, you know, we've heard series of complaints, we've heard series of mention when it comes to the families who are left behind, who feel is it just, you shouldn't just celebrate these fallen heroes,
or commemorate,
or commemorate them just once when it comes to January 15, which is the date. It should be, do you think we should celebrate them? It should be an everyday affair. These are individuals who have laid down their lives to pay the ultimate price. They put it in writing, and most of them are in war fronts. Do you think we should, Armed Forces Remembrance Day shouldn't be just once in a year? Do you think it should be more than once, or to show the families of the fallen heroes who they have left behind that they mean a lot and they are of importance to us?
Well, just like the name depicts, Armed Forces Remembrance Day is a day set aside to remember our fallen heroes, to remember also our heroines who have contributed to protecting the lives and properties and the territorial integrity of Nigeria. It's a day set aside. So take it that specified day. But what is most important is, how do you take care of these people before the incidents that led to their exit out of this world? Now, I give you an instance. You see, I came in contact with someone, and the man up there has all this security paraphernalia that guides him. But the officer in charge, what happens in instances where the materials, the equipment that is needed for him to defend our lives are not being provided. So this is very, very critical. So when we talk of welfare, not just welfare alone, because each time people talk about welfare, it's like someone that works in an office. You take care of the person very well, but the person does not have the tools to do the job. Then automatically inefficiency and ineffectiveness is expected. You can't expect someone who is working in an office, provided you have provided all the welfare packages, and you fail to provide the tools for that person to work efficiently. The person will never deliver. In short, that is wastage of resources if you are delivering on good welfare package for that person. Let's not just focus on equipment, the intelligence, the personnel, the infiltration of individuals who are spies, the infiltration of people who are not qualified, the infiltration of people from different interest group coming into the military. And the long run of it is that we now have a system that is polluted. Because we've had instances where those who are killed in front line, you hear them saying that, I mean, those that survived, that they were actually getting information from some of their personnel. That means you have sycophants, you have traitors, you have betrayers among those who are supposed to be securing their heroes. So while we are taking a day out to mark the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, we must take into cognizance the need for equipment, the need for all materials in terms of whether be it material, human, technical, and financial. These four things must be provided. And if these are provided, then you have a justification. Well, you also add welfare to say you have delivered, because not only in Nigeria, also outside the world, in cases of conflict, someone is bound to lose his or her life. But the rate at which these persons lose their life and the circumstances that surround this is what is very peculiar with the Nigerian scenario. And that must change. We hope that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will change the narrative as regard that.
Excellent. You want to say something else?
I just want to digress, not really digress, still in the same, it's in the same tool in which we're talking about. Looking at the insecurity state, insurgency started since 2010 and until now. Do you think, in your own opinion, that the military, they were a little bit able to curb it up a bit compared to how it was and where it started from the beginning? Do you think they've done their best so far, or you think it's still on the uprising?
Nigeria as a country has done its best. So much monies have been invested in getting gadgets, training personnel, intelligence gathering, getting network within the ECOWAS region, which is so polarized with insecurity. We are aware of that. We have the multinational joint task force, which multinational joint task force across the ECOWAS region, even within Chad, between Nigeria, Chad, Nigeria, Cameroon, and all our borderlines. But the fact remains that to what extent has our best yielded fruit? I remember some time ago, maybe sometimes early last month of December, a senator talked about insecurity entrepreneurs. That means we now have businessmen who are feeding fat on the lives of Nigeria, leveraging the insecurity that we have found ourselves. And so that makes it a bit very, very difficult. We have instances where some persons, some very high-profile persons, has been mentioned in very high-profile cases. But the question you ask, what has happened to them? It's so unfortunate that we are in a situation where politicians will trade blame on the plates of the lives of people who are lost. It's a very sad situation, I must say.
Interesting.
And that brings me to talk about the Nigeria that's...
I'm sorry, I will have to bump in on you for a second, if you don't mind, because we are turning our attention now to Daily Trust newspaper. It has a big story on the front page of it, again, with regards to insecurity. Bandits hold 5 sisters after killing 1 in Abuja. That story has riders. First one says, demand 100 million, 50 million. That these siblings were said to have been held captive by bandits. Now we understand, because they thought the family of these siblings had delayed payment of ransom. They had to execute 1. All right. Now we understand friends and those who care about them are busy raising money, running from pillar to post, just to ensure that they secure the release of these sisters. All right. The concern is, first of all, that these are siblings of the same parents. The second is, this is happening at the very center of Nigeria, which is Abuja. How concerned should we be?
Well, we must be seriously concerned, my brother. If you have watched in the last 2 weeks, the Federal Capital Territory and its environs has constantly been in the news with respect to insecurity. And that tells you that we are no more safe in Nigeria. Safety is gradually being eroded. We had the case of what happened in Maraba, where armed robbers, or they call them bandits or whatsoever, entered the supermarkets and shut down some lives. Just last week here, there was the case that happened in Karoyanya, Jikoye Aziz. And now we have this. These are the cases that have been reported, my brother. What of the other ones that have not been reported? It goes to tell the extent to which the insecurity of lives and property have gone in our dear country, Nigeria. It's a very sober moment that even after kidnapping siblings of that numbers, they still killed one. Just 3 days ago, someone was talking.
That appears we're losing stream there with Lugard. We'll bring it back on once we're
of someone that is sustained 10 million. Sorry. Yeah, I'm alive. Are you there with me?
We can hear you all right. Just go ahead, please.
This person paid 10 million naira and they still killed him. So that is the height of insecurity that we have found ourselves. And we're not so surprised that.
Well, we're also not surprised that
the Kaduna has a season. Yeah, are you there with me?
Lugard, just go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you. So over 30 persons were kidnapped on the Abuja-Kaduna route. It's so sad, my brother. I think at this point in time, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to step up the game in addressing the insecurity that is gradually ravaging the Federal Capital Territory. This is a seat of power for goodness, and this is happening here. We pray that it does not deteriorate beyond the level that we are seeing right now, because it's so sad that it's becoming like an everyday news. Weekend days, it's becoming a recurring destiny. Abuja has taken over the space, while what is happening in the hinterland is still happening.
Okay, we have a few more headlines from today's issue of Daily Trust newspaper. Super Eagles avoid upsets against Equatorial Guinea. The second one says ACF, NEF meets over North challenges. FCT primary school teachers begin strike today. But we're going to turn to the next paper now, where Jomai will bring us the headlines on the Vanguard newspaper. Let's take a quick look at the Vanguard, and Jomai has those headlines for us.
And the Vanguard says Nigeria can't make progress without true federalism. And it says Ohanaeze youths praise Tinubu, Italy media trial of better edu. And then it says, talking about sports again, AFCON, Nigeria 1-1, Equatorial Guinea. We've talked about that already. And below, the Vanguard writing says, manufacturers threaten as CRR rises 45.5% to 13.81 trillion naira. And it says here, threatens bonds intermediary role. Analyst says that, and the company's access to credit curb as cost money rises. On the news there. Now, of course, we're looking at Supreme Court verdict within APC. There's a statement there from the APC.
I'm particularly interested in Nigeria can't make progress without true federalism. That's coming from Obong Atta. For the records, look at Obong Atta is a former governor of Akwa Ibom State. He was there between 1999 and 2007. As a matter of fact, he was succeeded by the now President of the Senate, talking about Godswill Akpabio. Let's talk about federalism for a second, Lugard, if you don't mind. Before now, the mantra was restructuring. People have talked about that along the lines of politics, if you like, resource formula, sharing formula, derivation, and so on and so forth. Is Nigeria actually a federation in the practical sense of the word?
This is a difficult and an easy question. Is Nigeria truly practicing? We are not practicing true federalism. We are very, very far from true.
We're noticing some audio feedback from there. Look at it. Are you still on? Can you hear us?
Yeah. We are very far from true federalism. In federalism, you have the federating units, well coordinated, carried along in terms of development. But what we now see, or what we have continually, what we experience, even just take a look, Director General. The moment you have a DG in an agency, check what happens. You gradually see a restructuring of the management structure, especially key positions being tilted towards the tribe or the religion of that Director General. You see that the cabals that work with the DG automatically tilt towards that direction. The same thing we saw during the time of President Muhammadu Buhari, former, where almost all the security chiefs were tilted towards one direction. We need to practice true federalism for us to get it right in our country. Well, so many options have been suggested. We have resource control. His Excellency Obonvito Acta was one of the frontline runners who pushed for resource control. And history is yet on ground for us to see. For those who push for resource control, what happened to them? That's the like of Alams, His Excellency, former governor of Bayelsa State, Chief Lucky Benedion, and Chief Ibori. But whichever what may have transpired, the effect of resource control that they push reflected. And restructuring, we've been talking about restructuring. And now, push for structuring of Nigeria. And His Excellency is talking about true federalism. We are here to practice true federalism. We have states in this country that are endowed with a lot of resources, huge natural resources in terms.
All right, so this is that point where we'd like to say a big thank you to Lugard Okonobo for making our time to come on the show this morning. But then we have a few more papers to look at before we're done with Global Morning today. We have a guest joining us from Benin shortly to talk about what's coming out of Edo State with regards to the election scheduled for September by INEC. We'll have all of that up ahead for you. Juma and I will still be here with you on the program. Do stay with us right after this break. Thank you for staying with us, everyone. We have now joining us live via Zoom from Benin City, Edo State's capital, Shedrack Odugbai. Is a socio-political development around politics in that state. Shedrack, it's good to see you again after a while. Hello, Shedrack, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you very well. Good morning, Mr.
Oh, excellent. Good morning. So I'm here with my colleague, Juma Manson, and we'll just have this back and forth, this interaction with you on the program this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Shedrack. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Juma. Nice being with you.
All right, so let's get the conversation on the road quickly. It's 2024. Of course, we cannot divulge some of the developments we're seeing now from all of those elements we had also witnessed in 2020. Walk us through what exactly it's like in Edo State right now in terms of electioneering. We know campaign has not started full-fledged, but then the gladiators themselves, the actors, are already on the pitch.
Challenge what we have on Ghana is that lots of candidates have thrown their hat into the ring. There are lots of persons who are vying for the position to be the governor of Edo State. And the arena is filled with political leaders and masters. But the Edo people are very conscious. They are very interested in who will be the governor after Governor Godwin Obaseki. Because they've come to realize that in this nation where we find ourselves, that everything, a lot of things lies, the rest on politics. Even the economy resides on politics. So if you're not able to get the politics correct, you're not able to ensure good political leadership, it is hard for the people to prosper in the next 4 years. So the interest is keen, and everybody is interested in who the capacity of the which person is come from. So there are lots of interplay about the issue of zoning, where the person is going to come from, the group of persons who want to feel some sense of belonging, the issue of competence and character, the issue of antecedents. So we're trying to explain the candidates. There are so many of them in the three major political parties. Whether you like it or not, there's an APC, there's a PDP, and there's a Labour Party. All three of them are fully on ground, and there are other numerous smaller political parties on ground to join in the race. So I think people are looking curiously. We're also waiting for the political leaders within the political party to choose who they are bringing, who their candidates will be. For those of us in political parties, we are explaining the candidates available to us in the political party. For those of them who are not in the party, they are waiting to say, okay, this one will be better. People are making recommendations. It will be better if the People Democratic Party bring this candidate. It will be better if the APC brings the candidate. So the candidates are trying to pull themselves out. They're trying to show themselves. So it's a rich arena. Lots of electioneering, lots of places coming up. It's really by ourselves over here, and we are trying to watch the candidacy of the respective aspirants to know who best will take over for Godwin Obaseki even before we go in for the primaries. So that's where we are, Manager.
Great. I know Joma is going to throw a question at you on the beat, but I just wanted to stretch this a bit further, right? You mentioned zoning a while ago. That's a big talking point in this narrative. There are those now saying, well, Adams Oshiomhole had been there for 8 years. Prior to that, his predecessor, Lucky Igbinedion, had been there for 8 years as well. These are gentlemen from Edo North and Edo South, respectively, talking about Adams Oshiomhole and Lucky Igbinedion, right? But then, its year by November 12, again, another Edo South gentleman. On the basis of this, there's now the clamor to say, look, can we not move this thing, or as politicians say, zone it to the central, which is Edo Central, where you have the Esan people. It appears the governor, Obaseki, is listening to that call. He's saying, look, this has got to go to Edo Central, so the Esan people can also have a fair voice. I mean, they can be heard as well. But we have elements, we have actors, all right, now saying, well, it's about competence. It's not so much about zoning. Shadrach, where do you stand?
And for me, as a Democrat, believe in the principles of equity, fairness, and justice. In as much as the issue of zoning is not fully enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution, but persons like us who are Democrats to the core, we believe that for there to be equity, for there to be fairness, for there to be equal access to power and empowerment, for them everybody to have a sense of belonging, that the position needs to be zoned. And so that everybody will feel a sense of nationhood, so that we will not have the issue of restiveness as we perceive in Nigerian nation state. Not the state peoples and marginalization will just come to rest. But everybody believes that the state is they belong to that collective patrimony, statements can go on ease. So I strongly believe that Adams Oshiomhole from Edo North has done 8 years as governor, Governor Godwin Obaseki has done 8 years from Edo South. Then logically, it is only sensible and responsible for you to go to Edo Central, let them do another measure of 8 years, because you cannot say that they don't have competent persons in Edo Central, if you want to speak of issue of even some of the most performed governors we had, attached to Abu Ali, it was from Edo Central. And that was even when it was Edo Delta together as Bende State. So if they can provide a competent man as renowned as Abu Ali, as again when it was two states joined together, let's see how good it takes to provide a good governor when it's just Edo State. And then the contestation is on. There are people who have said, no, it doesn't really matter. It's issue of competence. In the APC, we're having the issue of they are bringing lots of candidates from Edo South. We're having the issue of Professor Eze Yamus from Edo South, and who wants to take over from an Edo South governor who has just completed 8 years. Here in the People's Democratic Party, we have Philip Shaibu, who is Helpet, who is one of the frontline candidates, who's saying yes, in as much as the Dosat has done, he is proper part to go to a donut, and he wants to become governor after Governor Obaseki. Obaseki has said that he is a man who believes in fairness and who wants power to logically go to a do central. So those persons also have a good sense of belonging. So the challenge is just open. But I strongly stand with fairness, equity, and justice, and stand with zoning and rotation of power so that everybody can have equal access to power and empowerment. And not as too strongly to say all those candidates from Edo Central, that's where we should logically be looking at. And other positions, other places we have for that time to run for governor. It doesn't be. So that's where we are, my leader. I believe it should go to Edo Central strongly, and I work towards that consensuously.
Mm-hmm. I know your sentiments and sympathy are with the governor, Godwin Obaseki, and whoever he chooses. But for records now, you and I remember in 2020 how the likes of engineer Omoegi Ogbede Ihama and of course engineer Gideon Ihine, and then you had Riceman, as is popularly called, Barrister Ken Imasagbon, collapsing their structures just to throw their weight behind Obaseki. Do you think the grounds are still the same? Because as it stands right now, we understand that AI, that's Asue Godalo, as is popularly called in Benin now, is the preferred candidate of the governor. Again, that's a gentleman from Edo Central. However, leaders from Edo Central, especially within the PDP, are also now saying that, hold on a second, the governor does not have that unilateral latitude to decide for us who becomes the governor from Edo Central. We will have to choose our son or daughter to represent us. How are we also resolving that now?
No, states explicitly that the governor does not have a preferred candidate. There is no place, no video, no audio, there is no political meeting or gathering where the governor has openly supported or presented Asue Godalo as a candidate. What is making around is rumors to say that the governor prefers this man. There is no is not in the ticket. We work with Governor Obaseki. I have said, and according to serving his government, does not mean I have not pointed to anybody. People start saying, okay, the president said, I asked him with Jesua was one of those persons who worked seriously hard for the governor to come to have the second term ticket under the People's Democratic chairman of the Congress. He is on the ticket too. When someone not saying that is a free candidate, he has fought his form and he's still in the race. So the challenge is that to say because it's just cooked up somewhere. The governor is not the ticket, the governor has one vote, and we have seen instances where the governors are not supporting this candidate, and I'm supporting this candidate, and the candidate goes on to lose. So I believe that people have said, alleged that the governor is supporting Asue Godalo, that means Asue Godalo unbeatable or untouchable. It doesn't make any sense. The man is going back to campaign, doing his electioneering, and then when I feel he's threatening because Asue Godalo is in news and he wants to talk down the governor to him, it is consequential. There is no, I say again, there is no public presentation, there is no video, there is no record, there is no meeting when the government has only stated that he's supporting Asue Godalo. There's nothing else Godalo has done as tied in. What we have said is that because we have led the economic team of the governor, and that is why he is running, and I just alluded saying he has not, and I do not believe that too strongly. Then secondly, you said you made mention of Ogbede Ihama stepping down for Obaseki, Gideon Ihine, and the host of them, and Mr. Riceman locking the last man. The challenge is because Gideon Ihine, Ogbede Ihama stepped down for the governor, doesn't that mean that after Obaseki does his 8 years, Ogbede Ihama will be there? After Ogbede does, Gideon Ihine will be there. No, remember that you stepped down because you have believed that you have aspirations is secondary to what this man has. That this man has more than what it takes to deliver the dividend of democracy. This man can really, will rather keep your ambition to support the ambition of this man because you believe that that isn't eroded with your aspiration. You may have stepped down for the governor, and this time saying you're not contesting, you're not interested in becoming governor. So the president will say, you step down, you must rise to the occasion. And then you're seeing that the governor supporting one candidate distorts the government is very difficult. And I find it very difficult to really believe Other persons just want to allude the fact that the government is controlling one candidate or the other. And then the way to like has done where he doesn't have much more visibility than other persons. So the challenge for me is everybody should go out in the field. It is the delegate who will decide to become governor. So delegate may love the governor, may love the governor more than, but the governor, there's no clear direction again. And when there's direction, I'm just to let you know. Most people have, including the People's Democratic Party, is like the idea of Philip Shaibu, who says he wants to become governor and he wants the governor to endorse him openly to run for office. And I cannot endorse you to run for office. The people of Edo State will choose who will become the governor. And mind you, governors must come from Edo State. But I believe, we should have done 8 years. And those are done. This is very clearly. This education thing, this is a group of people who have waited for the democracy now for over 20 something years. They've never had a governor, a deputy governor once. The governor they've had is about 12 or 13 months, or after 18 months, they've had a governor. These are people in the post-military districts. They've never had body to become the deputy governor. I do not have 2 deputy governors who are done 16 years in office. I do not have a governor who have done 8 years in office. I don't say that I have 2 deputy governors, I have 2 governors who have done 2 governor, and the governor have done nothing to 2 years. And you say governorship should not, governor should not go back to governor. So I don't know, we have 16 years, deputy governor 16 years, and then Sand has no deputy governor for less than 2 years. So it doesn't really matter at all. Just have persons who have conscience, who are desirous of a sustainable democracy. We say point the fact that it is just logical. Please think that you should not contest. You can go and contest. If you feel that you have the political wherewithal, if you feel that what you have is enough for people to say, no, let us leave Johnny aside. This man is overconfident for the job. Let us give it to him. It will still be yours. Nobody will. It's your inalienable right for you to contest. And you must be given that privilege. And that's what we have. So the idea of going to say the governor is doing this, governor is doing that, is inconsequential. Let everybody present themselves before the candidates. There's nobody here who is not known to education. Continue to educate yourself. What you become governor. So I do not believe that that is doing his own pains every year. Holding meetings, series of engagements. It was no one that was carrying it. It will be inside government office, relaxing in one place. Election will come out and represent the people, say, this is the last one, all of you follow.
Mr. Shadrach, Mr. Shadrach, I have a question to ask. You know, when it comes to the issue of governors electing their preferred candidates, you know, we've had that issues not only in Edo State, we had it in other states as well. I just don't want to mention. And you see, the issue of godfatherism comes into play, where the preferred candidate of the governor becomes the governor of that particular state, throwing more light when it comes to that. Prefers this candidate, the candidate ends up being that. I've seen it. It has played back to back. So just throwing more light for us. I really want to know.
And when you say the governor having a preferred candidate, every governor must have a preferred candidate.
And that candidate becomes the governor of that state.
That's the challenge I have. When you see the governor has a preferred aspirant, it means that the people, the followers of the governor within the party, they have come forward to present their state governors. The governor cannot pick and choose and miss the spirit in the party. But after the people in the party are officially pick a candidate, they're not carrying becomes the governor's candidate. When the governor's in a party, whoever candidate meets in that party, it automatically becomes the candidate of the governor. And the governor must work considerably hard. The governor also has a preference. He has the experience, he has the political capital, he has the political goodwill. He must make preference to supporting the governor, and the governor will rise from it. It doesn't naturally mean that Rufana as a governor, he doesn't fly for him not to be a governor, and then when it's time for election, he goes into the caucus of his office and says, I'm not interested. You people should run it as much as you want, whoever the people chooses. Because people also need help to say, okay, Your Excellency, you have done well. You have delivered the dividends of democracy. You have performed meritoriously well. Who do you think will be best to take over from you? Then the government will say, this man is what I think, what I feel is preferable, and we'll have to now put his money where it matters. So the challenge is not something that we should see as black or something that is antithetical to democracy. It's something that is unholy. Because if I say a black, you can have my candidate, work as doesn't hard to support the candidate. The people is me and the people, and the persons who are political people must make recommendations. People who are leaders who follow the political analogy closely. We have to get recommendations. I can't believe that it's just the governor's recommendation. The governor's candidate can win, he cannot win. to power, and they're not being the end results to some form of political crisis or conundrum within the state. I say it depends on the persons. You see a governor coming into power and is happy about his predecessors, and they live harmoniously. But the beauty of wanting to have it, but the challenge we have, we witness in Nigeria, is the former governor wanting to still remain as governor even after he had handed office to another person. And that like you said, is anti-democratic because it speaks to the issue of godfatherism, it speaks to the issue of proprietarianism.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I want to put you on the spot. Now, I know Mr. Shedrack, you've spoken a lot about the North, the South, the Central. Now, let me put you in the spot in all of this. Who is your preferred candidate that you feel in your heart who has the capacity, the compatibility, who has the eligibility to move Edo forward? Who is your preferred candidate?
They are not candidates now, it's preferred aspirants.
Okay, sorry, your preferred aspirant, I'm sorry.
Okay, in my preferred aspirants, I look closely. There are cases of requisite competence and character I've cited. First among them is Action Godalo, where is still under perhaps some level of investigation, because I believe very strongly that many people have experience, capacity to build something outside governance. When it comes to governance, it now becomes the onus now of them to bring that ingenuity to governance. They did not come into governance and become a political liability. So I am particularly about Action Godalo. And the challenge is that the man has been perceived to be a technocrat. We and I know that a technocrat is a man or woman who has elaborate technical or scientific skill in a particular field. He is not expert, a man who has done consultancy, a man who has done far, by way of he has done a lot. So when we are witness that we are seeing what Madam Saliu Oshomole did when he was leaving office. Only leaving some time ago, roughly about 2015, he said he won't bring a good politician to succeed him because he believes that there are persons with intellectual capacity to reposition the civil service, to get some international community, to make meaningful contribution. And that's why Gordon Obaseki became governor. He became governor simply because he had the requisite capacity, having gained external knowledge and competence from his experience as an investment banker. You know that we are seeing is a difference in governance. So we're not saying, okay, let us move in that direction. Let us going to bring persons of requisite competence, not this idea of being a political strong man who has political capital somewhere, who is very popular, but when it comes to governance, slap this governance to pedestrianism. That's why we are me personally. That's why personally I am trying to let us go in the line of Godalo, who has some level of competence and character, who has experience and competence to bring and leverage into governance. And I think he also has competence too, but within the People's Democratic Party, another person I would have loved to mention is Yakubu. John Yakubu. John Yakubu also did well when he was Gogo chairman. But fortunately and unfortunately for Godalo, seeing him as a man of superior capacity, a man of superior character, we do better than him when he eventually gets office. So that leaves me only asking Godalo because now it was Yakubu I was following before, John Yakubu I was supporting, and after John Yakubu I was now watching Ashen Godalo from the fringes, and I was like, Ashen Godalo appears to be better. So the John Yakubu stepped down to support Ashen Godalo. That was only Ashen Godalo currently within the People's Democratic Party.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask you this, Shedrack. It's getting more interesting by the day, no doubt about that. You talked about AI, Ashen Godalo a while ago. In terms of his competence and experience that he brings to the table, especially to a role such as being the chief executive of Edo State, some people have said, look, this is one of the brightest lawyers ever produced in this country. He is the senior partner of one of the most successful, one of the most visible corporate law firms in Nigeria. We understand not too long ago he stepped down as the chairman of the board of Nigerian Breweries. He's a boardroom boy, they say. So on the basis of this, there are people who say very firmly that he thinks like the incumbent governor that's talking about Obaseki. That's the reason Obaseki would throw his weight behind him in the final analysis. But I want us to switch gears for a minute and talk about the governor. This is the elephant in the room, if you like. I talk about the governor, and he said, 2IC, talking about the deputy governor, Philip Shaibu. If we had our way, we would play you a clip where the governor, or several clips actually, where the governor and Philip Shaibu had danced a lot of times, all right, in the build up to the election in 2020. But there's no dance right now, as common knowledge. So how's that playing out?
Honestly, there was no love lost until I think a couple of months, like 4 or 5 months ago, when the deputy governor launched the court, collected the court injunction, wanted to restrain the governor and some certain House of Assembly members from impeaching him. That was where the whole initial saga started from. And going like, we are here going about governance, trying to bring home the dividend of democracy to Edo people. And the electioneering has never kicked off. Any timetables never have to know when the election will take place, when primaries will be slated. And yes, someone is trying to restrain us from impeachment when even impeachment is not in the line of action. That was where the whole imbroglio started from. And then beyond that, the deputy governor made some moves in trying to say the government was supporting. And that issue was resolved. I think the Archbishop of Benin and a few other principal stakeholders within the state intervened and they resolved the fracas and they went back to governors harmoniously. Only for later, the deputy governor came out again and declared his interest and wants to be governor. There's really no love, but the governor also has the experience. He has done well for himself. But what baffles me is the recent comments and the way Amane has gone with his aspiration and ambition. He was one time as House of Assembly member, 2 times as Assembly member. He had gone to the House of Rep, from House of Rep, they brought him down to become deputy governor. He had done deputy governor for 8 years. Now we see some level of satisfaction for a man who had had such an illustrious political career for a period of over 20 years. So the career we have currently is the idea that he goes to public media, trying to demarket the governor, trying to engage in the mudslinging, trying to use actual threats and manipulation not support him, and the party is saying, trying to say he feels betrayed. When you and I know the circumstances that brought him into power, trying to say that when he was the governor and spent some money in doing spirituality business, that it was governor who would have done that. But yet we are in the cabinet where all this were taking place. You didn't call the government to action, you didn't make it to public domain. You say, I don't like this, I don't like this. You swallow them those hiccups. So the way Abdullah is going about his ambition now is what's irritating, is what's nauseating, what's disenchanting. You and this man have gone through 8 years, you have stuck and swarmed together. The man entered the party, they kicked him out of the party because he came with the deputy governor. He had problem with his predecessor simply because you and the man were dragging ego in the donor. So the governor has done a lot for the deputy governor. And if the governor said he's not supporting the governor openly, then I should believe that the deputy governor is strong enough to support himself. He should be like the second strongest man, political leader we have in the party for the last 8 years. He had appointed people as assembly members, he had made local government chairman. So I don't think he will have a problem wanting to erode himself to power. We may surprise you that next month, the elections will take place and Shaibu emerges as the candidate. What do you see? I'm trying to say, why not have to support him as candidate of the party in a fair and credible electoral process? So we shouldn't make it look as though there's an infighting and somebody wants to crush somebody can email, somebody cannot email. The ambition of somebody is illegitimate, while some other ones are legitimate. No, everybody is legitimate and viewed as you a leader within the ambit of the law. But some are perceived to be inordinate. That okay, you have done enough for you to have been comfortable. Let the people of those have some. And even though we will not support you, you could have other better days ahead. You do not mean you are not getting it now, means you will never get it. So that's the challenge. We're trying to balance interest. And it's like that in every political party. You have to go into contest. Only one person will have a ticket. But so many persons will consistently throw themselves on. Because in APC national, local government, we come out and throw themselves on. But one person will get a ticket. No 2 persons can be governor. So we have to go through this painful process. People's ambition, supporting alignment and realignment with one person to emerge as governor. So it's not something that is unholy or something that is brutal, something that is uncalled for, or once the government announces his ambition, it is logical for everybody to step down and just carry the piece of cake and give to him. It's not so. They must contest, there must be a robust political contestation for them to show their forces, for them to tell them this why I'm supporting, why I need to support. So it must be healthy. And I don't believe that the government should just say, I want to support this candidate, and everybody will go to sleep. No, it's not the best. When people have opportunities, the plurality of opinions is what makes democracy rich. And that's why the government, everybody that wants to be governor, should I encourage them to continue to throw themselves into the heart, going to fight and slug it out. If people find what they become governor. As far as I'm concerned,
all right, Mr. Shedrack, Honorable Shedrack, I really need to ask a question. You know, when it comes to gubernatorial elections, we've heard how aspirants are always attacking each other and all of that when it comes to states. Now, looking at the Edo State gubernatorial election, do you think the election there will be free and fair without any hitches, without any violence being involved and all of that? Do you think, with all of these aspirants, all of these top guns coming out, do you think it will be free and fair?
Let's just think it will be free and fair. I know it will be free and fair. If there's anything Gordon Obaseki has established, is his capacity to stay away from electoral manipulations, rigging, and any form of those negative aspects that tends to truncate the collective will of the people. Godwin Obaseki is a man who understands. God is the major custodian here. If there be any form of rigging, you have to have state power to rig. And if you don't have state power, you must have federal power. If those two powers are not available to you, then the instrumentalities of rigging are not available. If people who control security at one level or the other, people who control remote resources, they have the capacity to rig. So if the governor, as you are known, right from his first election, he didn't rig to become governor. 2022, 2020, he got the mass support of the people. He didn't rig to become governor. We saw the election that took place February 2023 election. We saw PDP only had one seat. Our Labour Party got a good share. APC got a good share. If the man was a rigging machine, so what happened in Rivers? What happened in that state when the governors came out and held the election by the jugular? But Obaseki is not a man that has casted himself in that move. He also keeps telling people, present yourself to the people. So I do not believe there will be any form of rigging within the People's Democratic Party for common rule. If there's anything to fear, we should be scared of the All Progressive Congress because so how they muzzle their way through becoming president in the national level. So that's the only fear. Because when I don't state the other people are struggling with the government, the government of the People's Democratic Party, coming into the election, knowing fully well that the man is not interested in thwarting their collective will or their choice or their particular decision. So what we should be calculating, if we will be happening from the win in the People's Democratic Party is to stand guard. We stand with you and ensure that the federal mind, this federal meeting they call federal mind, which is perceived to be an allotted number of votes that is declared in favor of the preferred candidate of the presidency, does not take roots in the state. We have fought all of those things in time past. Once the humanitarian election, the federal mind was reduced to nothing because the people stood with the man they believed in. So as the election begins to take shape, as candidates are now brought forward, we now begin to ensure, the modalities put in place to ensure that we resist any form of federal interference and any in the latitude to work, especially the new electoral law, to bring home the dividends of democracy and ensure that the collective will of the people is not thwarted. And we have an election that has a reflection the yearnings and aspirations of the people. We don't allow that to happen. But coming from PDP, the PDP is not known for any form of internal rigging, manipulation, or thwarting, especially under the leadership of Godwin Obaseki. It's not known.
We hope so.
I'd like to take you up on a different issue, but the same narrative around the Edo election. September, right? In 2020, the song was Edo no be Lagos, but this is 4 years down the line. A lot has changed. Apparently, you and I know that, Shadrach. However, the only constant here in the equation would be maybe Pastor Sage Ezeyamo of the APC, because we understand he has thrown his hat in the ring again. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, Labour Party was not a part of the conversation in 2016 and 2020. Now Labour is in the mix. How do all of these factors change the dynamics?
Yes, I'm interested about Labour. I'm pleased and I'm happy that Labour was a child born out of necessity, because at that point in time, in February 2023, when we were heading towards the election, what we saw was that people were looking for better directions. People didn't want the regular politicians, because politicians are men who are perceived to be liability within the political spaces. So when the APC brought forth Tinubu, who was perceived to be a strong man within the system. The PDP brought forth Atiku, who was perceived to be a good and experienced politician, who was perceived to be a strong man within the system. And people wanted a breath of fresh air. They wanted someone who was rich, who had the competence and character of the private sector, be at the voice of corruption. That's what Labour Party forward. And Obi took the lead. But in those cases, the parameters are a little bit different. What we've seen governance, good governance over the years. We have to go down to Saliu Shomole, down to Obaseki. So they've enjoyed the meritorious support of the people over the last two elections we've had. But notwithstanding, they will have some votes, but I strongly believe that the people of Edo State are too strongly with a government that had met their demands in the last 8 years, and they are willing to stick with that government, believing that the government will have the requisite intellectual capacity to continue to contribute. And that's exactly where we are. And the idea of Pastor Sage Ezeyamo, you see, this is a man who had contested. I think he should be going in for the 4th time now. And people who believe that the Edo State is their birthright and they have what it takes to become governor. And irrespective of whether they be rejected by people, they coming out again and again. To me, it's unhealthy, it's uncalled for. Having tried yourself once or twice, even if it's a sporting competition, by now they should be thinking of how to you should retire or start on the field of training, because The permutation no longer favor him. He's from Edo South. Someone from Edo South just won. He had contested. He had been a candidate inside PDP. He had been a candidate inside APC. So we're not talking of party again. No party can deliver him. So what I want to appeal to them, if there's anything to go back, let them bring somebody. Let it not be the case of Tinubu and all national level. With somebody new, someone that has something to offer. Not those politicians who don't have competence or character, who are not known to have made any humongous contribution in any sector. It was one thing that's clear. When a politician plays politics all his life, a politician does not have any form of private sector experience. The major problem that bedevils Nigerian democracy will bedevil that person. Because in governance, we struggle to match value with results. When a government official tells you it deploys 5 million naira for a project, the value that thing translates into is never up to 5 million. But if someone from the private sector tells you 5 million was deployed, we're expecting a value of 6-7 million, so it's under to 5 million. So in the private sector, when the private sector, they know how to get resources. Now I'm talking about the persons who have led businesses, who have treatment of any community, before able to come that by their character for this position, they're able to promote resources by making sure that the value of the resources, the traditional control is fully utilized for good governance. The right time when they were talking about why democracies in Africa has failed. Why is it that Africa, democracy that has done well in Europe and in America is being brought to Africa and is failing woefully? And one of the basic recommendations they made was that in Africa, since who run politics, they are political leaders and masters. They have no competence or character to bring into governance. They come into governance as political liabilities. And the recommendation was that must go back to the drawing board and bring in technocrats, persons who have strong intellectual experience, who have human, who have something to offer, who have proven themselves in what has been done in other established clients. They ask you, what have you done? How have you managed man and resources? And also, Edo State is getting it right because they are bringing persons who have managed man and resources, who have acquired some level of experience into governance. So when they come into governance, they are not liabilities and they are not parents. They come to governance to show a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of connection. And that's where Edo State is heading towards in this next generation.
I was just listening very intently to you as you made those points. But then your narrative around Pastor Sage Ezeyamo, whom has a reputation for having, if you like a pendulum swung between the APC and the PDP, presenting himself again for this race. You said for somebody like that, they feel as though this is their birthright. But like I said, this appears to be double standard because Atiku Abubakar, former vice president, is said by some people to have run for president about half a dozen times, all right? But then you threw your weight behind him in 2023. How did that happen? What's the difference?
When Atiku Abubakar was running for office, that was the second time he was taking a ticket. Being an aspirant is not enough. He could aspire for but a candidate 2 times in 2 different parties is a tall order. And I think Zema has been a candidate for like the 3rd time now, and it's this attempt to be the 4th time. And at that particular point in time, the peculiarity of the Nigerian nation state was different. We are looking at Nigeria appeared to have been under we had a non-party that had failed woefully. We had the Progressive Congress under President Muhammadu Buhari, who could not deliver any of his promises. He came on the power of the economy, security, and it was the economic security and a few others. Not deliver even one. And they now want back to pick another man, a political, an alliance that has been on ground in the person of President Muhammadu Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who we know also does not have the requisite competence and character, no private sector involvement. He has been a corporate politician all his life. He has not built businesses, politics. Anything but APC. I have to look for the strongest kind of grant to battle APC to instances. And PDP took up better businesses. He has worked in immigration. He has risen up the ranks. That's why the fact that he was long-time deputy former president, that doesn't mean that because of separation, they were characters that the man showed. So Pastor Sage Ezeyamo, the man has not picked anything. He only owns a farm, iron farm, and fair to large extent has not yielded any meaningful result over the years. There's nothing he has. He's not known to be an intellectual. He's not known for any strong argument. What he has is a BSc, and there's no MSc to. So actually, he has not worked. He has no contribution meaningfully to make. So I won't say because he has aspired. His aspiration is just one of those many things that we consider inconsequential. So I don't believe that I will not say because they are supporting someone who has campaign before. Kadama had something, I perceived he had something to give. That's why I kept coming forward. We just saw the game, mind you, but I believe that he had his own first set. He does not look to better directions. It's as well as that.
Honorable Shadrach Udugbai, socio-political analyst, my colleague Juma and I would like to say a big thank you to you for making our time to join us on Global Morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Thank you. Up next will be a big conversation about the suspension of the social investment programs under the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. What exactly does it mean for the economy at large, and in particular, those who are the targets of these otherwise laudable initiatives? We'll talk to you about those after this short break. Do stay with us.